What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Excellent Podcast. I'm your cinematic host, STEFON WHITAKER, the head honcho of SW Films. And today I have a very, 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 very special guest on the podcast today. A woman who I worked with on the Single Again music video shoot by Big Sean back in May of 2019. It's been it's definitely been 2 years now since we worked on that, which is kind of crazy. I've been seeing so much amazing stuff from her. She's been doing amazing stuff in Detroit, going from a PA to pretty much producer level, almost out of nowhere. So I'm super, super excited to talk to this woman. Abriana, Bri From The D is here on the podcast today. Bri, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I can't believe it's only been 2 years. It's only been 2 years, but also it's feels like it's been forever. So
yeah, feels like it's been forever. And time is it's just constantly moving. Literally it's about to be 2022 in a few months, which is kind of insane. Cause I feel like I've done a lot this year, but I feel like I haven't done enough, or I feel like there's only been a few key things that have happened this year out of all the bunch of different shit that I've done. But I don't know, it feels crazy, but I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you're doing good. First off, for all of my people listening, I want you to just go ahead and explain yourself, who you are, what you do, speak to your excellence, all that good stuff.
Okay, what up, though? So I'm from Detroit, born and raised in Detroit. How did I get into what I'm doing now is kind of where you want me to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll start in middle school because that's when I discovered what a journalist was. I didn't have a traditional entrance into production film at all. And I don't even know where my end goal will be, but we'll get to that later. I learned what a photojournalist was, and it was pictures, words. I love both. Let's figure out how I can do that. So I started a blog, and I would take the bus and go to different thrift shops and all that with my little camera and interview these business owners and put that on my little blog. And I went to a really good high school in Detroit called Cass Tech, which lets you pick a major, basically. It's almost like a little college. Really? And so my major in high school was communications and newspaper. And so on the newspaper, became broadcasting editor, which is where I got introduced to a little bit of video, and then earned a scholarship to Wayne State University here in Detroit as well, where I studied broadcast journalism. And through that, obviously, mostly writing heavy, news writing, but because my concentration was broadcast, I was introduced to broadcast production. And so that was you have a floor manager, you have a director, but they're in the back, right? They're handling what's happening on the cameras, and was an associate producer for a class, but that class show was produced on Detroit Public Television. And so became associate producer for that while I was in school, eventually the host of that. And then one of the requirements for my scholarship at Wayne State was to have an internship every single semester, child. And so I feel like I've been working forever because these internships, you couldn't stop. And so one of my internships was Detroit Public Television. And that wasn't that was very random. And so my first time PAing on a set was for this country music extravaganza, and I was really a stagehand because it was live. So, but that was just my introduction into what this life could be, what this world was, and all of that. And so, something that a lot of people ask is how I get these opportunities, and it's really just about how you perform on these jobs, right? So you do an amazing job, and people are going to want to work with you again. And so after that experience, I started getting called to be a PA or getting these opportunities to be in PA. And so my first big PA job was that Single Again music video. I had never PA'd really before besides that.
That's crazy. Damn. So that was, that was the very first one. First of all of that sounds amazing. Your journey and everything is great, and it's still continuing and whatnot. That's amazing. That's crazy that your very first thing was some country music shit. That's
Heck
kind of
yeah.
crazy.
That was wild. And it wasn't bad. You know what I'm saying? They were so nice.
Yeah. No, yeah, I
And
bet.
it was interesting. And you know what's funny? I still, while I do production stuff as well, I still work in music. I'm a production promoter representative. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm gonna make sure because I'm gonna make sure to link some because you've had like a YouTube channel too that I remember following for a little while as well. I'm gonna link all that stuff below for people to check out. But first of all, that all sounds great. That it all started from photojournalism and stuff like that, and kind of moved into this film world. Like, so I guess did you almost imagine yourself like being like, I guess, not like a reporter, but maybe something like that, right?
At one point, and I don't hate that idea because I was always more so into entertainment anyway, entertainment journalism, and so I would go to red carpets and do stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I still don't mind doing things like that, and I think that influences how I view production as well because I don't necessarily. I've never been a creative writer. I've always just been a historical writer or effects-based or news writer. And that's still what the stories that I love to tell are things that are happening now, just flat out, or things that have happened in the past and then piecing those stories together or, you know, progressing them. But yeah, originally the idea was that I was going to get this internship at like a BET and be a host. And I would still love to do something like that. So why not?
That's what's up. No, that's great. See, it's interesting because, you know, I remember I had a class and when I went to school, I went to college at Full Sail University, which is a film school in Florida, right? And they had, I don't know if it was kind of similar to what you're talking about, but they had something called HD broadcast, which was like, it was kind of more like the news type stuff and like sports broadcasting and everything. And I hated that shit. I hated it.
What
because I mean, I guess maybe like I guess when I think about the real time situations, right? Like you're saying, like things that are happening and that are happening right now. I guess I look at maybe like documentaries for that, which I guess a lot of broadcasting stuff can have documentary type work on it in there. But like broadcasting is just, you know, being on a stage. We were on a stage the whole time. You know, we had the big ass cameras. And they had all the different green screens and graphics out there. And it just, to me, it just felt like, I don't know, it just didn't feel as creative as I was hoping, you know, or as I expected. I guess I wasn't hoping much. I wasn't hoping much for that class, but also in that, during that class, there was like there was almost like a huge fight that I was almost involved in, but that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story.
Say that though, when you make that comparison to like, you know, or that differentiation really between that kind of production, because they're both productions, but completely different. These like film creative storytelling productions versus a journalism based one. But I have always wrote the fence. You know what I'm saying? So I've always felt like that in life in general. It was like I'm always like in multiple different things at once. But I see my segue into film as through documentary, you know, filmmaking for real.
Yeah. And see, with all the amazing stuff that you've done and all the different sets that you've been on now, do you kind of still feel like though that idea from like the HD broadcast compared to like these music video sets, these film sets, commercial sets, what do you like more just from your experience right now?
So sometimes I feel like, all right, I'm getting a little bit too deep into this film stuff because folks want me to like come up with these narratives and like all this. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to be a filmmaker. That's another thing. I don't want to like claim that title as a filmmaker because then I feel like I have to, I don't know. I just feel like there's something I haven't yet claimed with that and I haven't accepted in myself yet. I haven't accepted that title. I'm still saying I'm just like a creative content producer. You know what I'm saying? Because I still enjoy making content that's like, say even something like this, if I were to produce your podcast and you guys are sitting there with some cameras.
One of these days, yes.
Man, I love to make content like that. I want to do a documentary. I want to do a few. I want to do some short form like series. But I also don't mind doing a longer form film from time to time. So I don't know what title that is.
That's interesting. That's hella interesting. Because I think of you as a filmmaker. Obviously, because I met you. I met you on obviously on the Big Sean video, which I want to get into that real quick. I want to talk about for the people who are listening and watching this podcast, first and foremost, who know me and who have been following me, they have probably seen that I worked on the Big Sean video as well as yourself. And that experience, right? I just want to kind of talk about my experience. Then I want to get into yours as well, how you got on it. But like for me, that I remember I was, what happened? I was living in Indiana at the time, right? And I think I was getting a lot of pressure from my mom at the time because like I was working on music videos and commercials and doing little stuff like that, but they weren't necessarily always the highest budgets for any of that stuff, right? So my mom was pressuring me. Like,
I mean, look at our markets, because you were saying you were still in Indiana. Our markets aren't okay.
Not there at all. Not there, especially where I'm from in Angola, Indiana, super, super small. No market. Even Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is the second biggest city in Indiana, not really much of a market there. So my mom's putting pressure on me like, yo, you should get a second job just to like continue to pay the bills. Because at the time it was still like, all right, I want to move to California, but I don't have the money to move to California. So I'm like, okay, let me get it figured out. So I remember there was this job that I applied for. It was one of those, it's not Uber, but it was I was gonna ride a big ass van and pick up old people and take them places. Yep. That was my job.
That's fine. I love it. Okay, I don't know nobody's hustle. I love it too.
Right, you know. So I was about to do that, but my mom actually was like, my mom gave me that recommendation or that job because she was working with some company that was kind of along with that, but they didn't take me because of nepotism. So yeah, I never end up getting the job.
Well, that's funny, but continue.
Yeah, it's hilarious because, you know, it's hilarious because it's where I'm from. It's a lot of white people, right? So, so the thing is like white people always use nepotism to their benefit, but that's a whole nother story. That's different. But anyway, but yeah, like specifically, I didn't get that job. So I want to say maybe a week or two later, I ended up getting a call from my cousin Hilton Day. Shout out to Hilton. Who was the first AD on the Big Sean video. He called me and said, hey man, I'm going to be working on a Big Sean music video in Detroit. Do you want to get on it? I'm like,
oh yeah.
What? Like, are you serious? Like, absolutely. Like, I've always been a fan of Big Sean, and it's like Detroit is hella close. Like, it's like 2 hours from my hometown. So I was like, absolutely. Of course I'm going to do that. So I drove out there on Mother's Day. I worked on that for like maybe 3 days or something like that. And that's when I met you. I met you on the shoot.
Okay, how do you remember? Because I don't.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't see you.
I remember. Okay. But do you want me to say it or do you want to continue your story?
You say it. Yeah, you say it.
Okay, so I remember when I was on, I was working with Cherry mainly with talent and doing their releases. And so we were in the basement. I wasn't even on set half the time. And then I was finally able to go on set. And then I was looking around trying to figure out who's who, because it was a lot of people. It was a lot going on.
A lot, yeah.
I had a walkie-talkie and somebody didn't. So I felt like, okay, I can figure out what's going on and all of that. And I just realized when they were calling for things, I would just do it. And then I would realize, oh, that person's going to do the same thing as me. And I recognize you. Okay, he must be a PA. And then everybody just, you know, PA Nation, they be trying to get to know each other. Like,
right.
Gotta happen. So that's kind of how it was.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think how I remember initially seeing you was probably when we were out in downtown Detroit, like on the very last day of shooting. We were out there and I was like, yo, I would be honest. I was like, yo, who's this? This girl's fine as hell. Who is this? I'll be honest. I'll be honest. So your hair was a little bit more out. You had like, it was out, you know, it was on some like SZA type style. But I remember that and I was like, who is that? And then that's when I think I like spoke to you or something. And then we actually were on set pretty much together the whole time throughout the day. Cause that was a crazy ass day. If you remember, so many background. Big Sean is literally like on top of a fucking news van and we had to lock up the entire area. It was very tough. It was a tough experience. Cause I think at the time for me, that was I had been on another big shoot somewhat sort of like that, but not at the same, not with like the same celebrity status. You know what I mean? So it was very different. So for you on that job, first of all, how did you get on that job? And then secondly, like when you were in the moment of working on that set, like how did your nerves work against you or did you just kind of like follow through with everything?
Yes, so I got the job through, shout out to Cherry Mitchell. She's the HR representative over at Detroit Public Television, and I met her during that internship. And she knew someone, I forget who, over that was working on the Big Sean music video, and she called me and asked if I could help her out on the last day. I wasn't on the full, shoot. I was only on that last day. And so she asked me if I could come and help her out, and I was like, heck yeah. And as far as nerves go, one thing about me, I do be nervous. Okay. I do be having like those feelings of like, I don't know what to expect. When you're walking into something, you don't know what's about to happen. Like, it's weird. But then I think just my personality, like I can perceive what needs to happen. So if there is a crowd and these people need to get in this line to get a picture taken, like I understand the systems that need to happen to get that done. And I'm a proactive person, so I'll just go ahead and do it. So it's really like, tell me what, at that moment, it was tell me what needs to be done and I'll do it. Now I know to ask more questions and, kind of get ahead of things, but that's kind of how it was. Going to set though, I was definitely nervous because I didn't want to be in nobody's way. I didn't want to get yelled at. I didn't want to be at the wrong place or whatever. And also, like I said, I didn't know who was who. And so when that happens, it's like, I could be asking this executive producer to get out the way. Like I didn't want any of that to happen. So I was kind of on set in charge of keeping the extras where they needed to be. And that's what I was comfortable with. When it came to, they were asking, because I remember this dude, Carlos and Blair and everybody, when they were like they were asking people to do things on set. I was like, I'm gonna let them handle that. I'm gonna just handle these people. So that's how
like that was that was such a learning experience for myself, because specifically, like I always say that production still to this day kind of has been one of my favorite productions of all time.
I think it was the beginning, and I didn't know that was the beginning for you. You handled yourself like a vet, period. You knew
I appreciate it. I would say it was not necessarily the beginning, but it was definitely the beginning of, like, I guess my time working on these bigger type productions at a consistent rate, because like that was in 2019. And then when I moved to California, I kept getting on projects like that. So I moved to California October 2019.
Wow.
So so it was all in the works. But see, the thing is so many different things. This is funny. I don't know if I actually ever told you this, but I remember after working on that Big Sean video, I almost thought to myself for a quick second, a very, very brief second, do I want to move to Detroit? I almost thought that. Literally, I almost thought about that for a few reasons, right? I think for me, one was like, I've been to Detroit a few different times before. I got family like in Flint, close by and everything like that. And I love Detroit. Detroit to me really feels like it feels like another piece of home. You know what I mean? And especially on that particular shoot too, it was majority like a Black crew, I felt like. So like that was that was amazing, because there's been a lot of shoots that I've been on here in California that are not the same. It's majority more whites, or there's mixes of different groups, but a lot of Black people barely. Like when I work with Hilton, right? Hilton usually always hires a Black PA crew usually, and that's kind of it sometimes. So there's other times it's not really like that. But I almost thought about Detroit because I was like, all right, I met you, I had met Diamond, shout out Diamond and Justin. Met all those folks, if Carlos, a bunch of different people. I was like, maybe I could work with these guys and try to build something here. But then California, there's just more things about California popping up in my mind. So I was like,
you made the right decision. Not shitting on Detroit at all, because I love Detroit. But I think that was an amazing decision for you, because you have just been thriving. So. Yeah,
thank you. I mean, Detroit is definitely, it would have been cool. And I think it would have been also good to be close to home too. But at the same time, I think it was definitely the right decision for sure. But
how do you take that leap of faith? That's something that a lot of people in this industry grapple with, right? Everyone who usually wants to go into film is typically like, I have to go to one of a couple of different places. They don't always live in New York, LA anymore. But how did you come to that? Like, that's a big risk. You know what I'm saying?
For me, it was like, it kind of made sense though, because I will tell you this. I said this on my most recent podcast, actually. Shout out to Andrew Donville, another great filmmaker. But I spoke to him about how what I think was an even bigger leap of faith than going from Indiana to California was for me to go from film school back home to Indiana in my small hometown. To me, that was a bigger leap of faith because California was like kind of already it was in my future. You know what I mean? It was in my future for sure. But like me going back home to have to like, graduate from college, go right back to my hometown that I was so desperate to leave, when it was time for me to go to school, then to come back into an area that has no market for film whatsoever, and then try to make all my own opportunities. That was a bigger leap of faith and a more riskier move for me. So like, to me, I would say for both of those situations, because they're both leaps of faith in their own rights, but me coming back home for me to learn on my own, basically, and take my wins and my losses and kind of chalk that up into all these different lessons. And for me to get better and everything that I start, create and whatnot, that really helped form who I am today. Like if I didn't go through everything I went through in my hometown, exactly, I wouldn't be doing none of this. So, but California leap of faith was more like, I think what it was, right, is when I decided it was time for me to officially move to California, I remember I was definitely conflicted. I was hella sad for like the entirety of October, because it's like, damn, I'm about to go away from my mom and my
that's wild.
Everything. Like for yourself, right? I mean, when's the last time that you can remember, if you ever have, like the time that you've had to leave your hometown, leave family behind to go do something for like a few months or a year or whatever?
Never. For me, I'm such a comfort driven person, right? And so I typically lean towards what's familiar, what's comfortable, and recently have started to embrace the like you have to be uncomfortable to grow and change.
Yeah, 1000%.
So I have not done that yet. I take little bites, and I definitely believe in like moving at your own pace. So I'm now absolutely comfortable. Like if I have to leave for a few, months, years, even if it's like my first time ever leaving home for work was for a weekend. I went to Chicago by myself, like because
I on your vlog, right? You had that on your vlog.
Yes, because I wanted to go and cover this festival. And so that was my first little taste into that type of independence. But yeah, I haven't had that experience yet.
It will happen for you for sure. Once you kind of figure out, because I had to visit California before I moved first, and then when I visited California for the first time in 2018, I worked with Hilton, and I also worked on a separate production as an electric one time in California. That was also very interesting. But that's
important. That's pivotal to your move, though.
Yeah.
Because for me, familiarity, if I can go to where I want to go beforehand and build some relationships so I don't feel like I'm dropping myself into the middle of the ocean, I'll do it in a heartbeat. But I'm glad you had that experience. You were able to work there and experience what that kind of would be like before you made that jump.
Yeah, and to be truthful too, like I think my experience in 2018 visiting California, visiting the Bay specifically, to going and moving out here is definitely not the same as much, because those two productions, one of them was an independent feature film and the other one was like a music video in 2018. And then obviously as soon as I moved here, the very first thing I worked on was something with Pinterest. And then right after that, I worked with Steph Curry, which was crazy. And then after that, what the hell? There's a whole bunch of different commercial stuff that happens here in the Bay. So I was working a lot on that type of stuff, and then eventually went to a feature film as a key PA, which was really cool. I mean, so many different experiences have popped up. Now I've been starting to
was this during 2020? Because you moved at the end of 2019. So were you working through the pandemic?
Whew. Yes and no. Yes and no. The no with like, so 2020, right? The beginning of 2020, what the hell was going on? So much was going on, I feel like, personally and just career-wise. Like, I think personally at the time, I was talking to my ex at the time. But then I was also working on, career-wise, I worked on Matrix 4, that's coming on, Matrix Resurrections. And then Venom 2, which is coming out as we're filming this, coming out this Friday. So Ben have came out once this airs. But I worked on those both in the same month, in February of 2020. And then right after that, the pandemic happened. So everything in the world was like kind of like fucked up basically. So I didn't work for like, maybe I want to say 5 months or something like that, 5 or 6. But then once June came around, I started working pretty consistently. Like it didn't stop. But then I eventually went back home, and that's when I obviously met up with all of you guys in Detroit. That's about to be a year ago now, which is nuts. But yeah, all of that, basically I was working, but I wasn't working at the same time. I was mainly getting certain little jobs because every production needs a PA, so PAs got lucky to get certain jobs. Some PAs, let's say, luckily I have a good network and I work hard. People respect me. So it's like I get on these different jobs.
That goes far. Something that you touched on that I want to ask about, especially with IATSE, the strike going on right now, is how has working in production affected your like personal life, and not necessarily like relationships, but just like our personal growth. You know what I'm saying? Because you can become so enthralled and, like you said, working back to back these long ass hours, and it's like, so how do you feel like as a person? Are you a person independent of your career aspirations? You know what I mean?
Well, this is funny because this is definitely one of the questions. So I'll answer mine, and then I want to hear your side of it too. Well, I would say the strike, right? In particular, obviously that's a huge deal. And I feel like it's going to be interesting how that affects the Bay specifically, because we don't have a lot of union jobs here. We have a lot more non-union stuff. Like whenever we do have union jobs, it's like the big shows or movies that come into town every once in a while, but we don't have any of those coming until like early next year. But still, I think a lot of people, just because of the solidarity aspect of it, people are probably going to end up striking along with folks, even if they do get certain gigs, but people still got to take care of their lives and their families. And so I don't know, it's going to be interesting how that happens. How it's going to affect me, I'm not sure. I'm still going to be working. I have my own production company, of course, SW Films. I'll probably, if it gets too bad, I'll probably just go ahead and go back to Indiana and shoot a few projects over there, possibly. I'll come to Detroit. Come on now, something, you know what I mean? Do something. Yeah. But as far as my personal life, I don't have one. Okay, I do, but I don't. Let me just say, I do have a personal life as far as, because now I live on my own. So I live in my own studio, which is great. I was living with my aunt in Vallejo, which was, it was a cool experience, but now I live by myself and I love it. It's amazing. So I'm starting to kind of grow more of a personal life with myself a little bit more, as far as like, consistently working out, going on hikes and different stuff like that, just being in my own space, trying to make food in here, like just different certain things like that. But when it comes to always interacting with folks, I definitely interact with people. I wouldn't call myself like an introvert, but I would say I'm like an antisocial extrovert. What Kendrick said. That's basically how I feel, pretty much most of the time. Like I have to kind of be extroverted to I feel like to have the energy that I have, and to be a director, and to, get people together to work on these different productions for my company or whatever else. So I have to be extroverted in a sense, but then I'm antisocial in the aspect of, I don't know. There's not always a lot of connections I feel like I can build sometimes with people, like consistently. Like sometimes I feel like I got to keep a lot of my energy to myself, especially just especially through my experiences in the past like few years. Like I would say, like on relationships, for instance, right? I think to myself, okay, it would be great to have a girlfriend at this time, but also it's very, 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 very difficult, I feel like, for me to find the situation that's best for me, if that makes sense, because I'm one of those type of people. I'm always going to be, my business is my number one priority completely. And plus I'm very, very passionate about my career and about what I'm trying to build with SW Films and everything like that. So it's like, I need someone who can understand the type of passion that I'm on. They don't have to understand the film world, the filmmaking world, but they need to understand what kind of the passion like that I hold. They have to understand that. Like there might be times where I might not want to talk. Like there's honestly, like I'll sometimes be talking to some people and then I'll realize like, damn, I didn't speak to these people for 3 or 4 days or a few hours because I'm just over here stuck in my head right now of what I need to do and what I need to create. And I feel like that doesn't always go well with certain people. So, I mean, that's a little tough, but I mean, I make sure to always like keep up with my people as far as like my friends and stuff. Like for you, for instance, I always try to check up. I always give you like a lot of how do you say it? A lot of encouragement and
Yes.
hype you up and stuff like that, which is something I want to mention too, because I was thinking about this in my head of how I wanted to say this and how it's going to come out. But specifically, right, when I think about my homegirls specifically, right, there's a whole bunch. I have a whole bunch of different homegirls who I love and respect. You're in that list of people. I would say I have a lot of muses, right? I have a lot of muses, but like my homegirls are in that muse in a way, because there's like an inspiration I get from a lot of my homegirls as far as like how they carry themselves and how their passion is kind of like synonymous with mine. And like, I really, really respect that and appreciate that of yourself. And when I think about that, when I think about the inspiration I get from my homegirls of just how I appreciate how they carry themselves, it makes me kind of think to myself a little bit, all right, in a way, it's like if whoever I end up with, like my girlfriend, wife, whatever the fuck happens, right, that's the kind I want that kind of energy. I want the energies that my homegirls carry for whoever that might be for me.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if I said that right, but that's just the way I explained it. But I have a personal life a little bit. I'm building it up, but at the same time, this passion can be like a gift and a curse sometimes. It really does feel like that, just a little bit. But
yeah, I have an aside question, but it can be an offline question, so you can edit this out if you want to.
Oh, go ahead. Nah, it's excellent podcast. What's up?
Do you date within the film industry? And if so, how does that work for you? How has that been?
Oh, in short, hell no.
Okay.
No, I'm just playing. No, I mean,
no, though. What's tea?
Not well, for me, it's like I haven't thought of like, okay, yes and no. No, I haven't dated anybody from like the film world, nor would I really ask. You know what I mean? I feel like, I don't know why, but I've always felt like my significant other would be definitely in the arts somewhere in there. But I never thought of my significant other being a filmmaker, just because I feel like one of the reasons why I feel like I want a relationship sometimes is the fact that my everything I talk about always has something to do with my company or with filmmaking and that kind of the creative aspect or entrepreneurial aspect of stuff. So having somebody who's not in that same world that I can delve into different conversations with.
Break. Heck
yeah. Exactly. So that's why I'm like, but there's some people sure I would. It just depends. Like most people who I've met in the film industry out here, I would say no. I would honestly say no. Just not like they're not bad people, but it's just me specifically. There's not really a whole lot of relation I feel like I see in that most times. But I've tried to ask one person in particular, but I didn't get like not really a good answer, but I didn't get the answer I wanted. We'll say, but I mean, what about you though? How do you manage your personal life outside of everything that you do?
Okay, so early on, I have always been like, with my public facing self and my private self are very different. And I've always kind of drawn that line. Like a lot of people have not experienced all of me, and I'm okay with that. Right. And so I can come across very much all about business, all about work, all I talk about on social media, for example. And I remember one time I was like, who am I outside of like the things that I do? Because I attribute a lot of my value and my success and just who I am to the things that I'm passionate about. And luckily I've been able to turn my passions into my job, right?
Right.
So when you mix the two, it's like, then those lines are blurred and crossed, and it's like, who am I and who am I not outside of these things? And I remember posing a question to my social media, like, how would you guys describe me? And it was all just business related things. And I was like, but I'm more than just that. And I have since then, made it a note to, do my business things, but also have these passions that or things or hobbies or whatever, something that I'm like, all right, this is not related to work. And so I do try and have that personal life and then this business life as well. That's kind of how that feeling.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I feel like, because one thing about me, Bri, is like, I have been so enthralled with like this career, this passion for like, I want to say since I started college. So like, I've been out of college now for like, it'll be 6 years next year. and then yes, when I started college, it was like, so almost 8 years. I feel like I've been really just so like in tune with what I've been wanting to do. And since I've gotten like better opportunities, and since I've gotten to places that I never ever thought I could ever get to, like I see that what I've been trying to obtain is getting closer and closer. Even though I know I'm still far away, it's getting closer and closer every single time. So it's like I can't lose the momentum that I'm on. I can't lose the drive, because have you ever thought to yourself, I always think about this all the time. I think about, what if I had a normal life? What if I had a normal life? What if I was working a 9-to-5 job at my age now, where I'm at, working a 9-to-5 job? Let's say I had a girlfriend who was like baby mama or something, and I wasn't living the most, I wasn't complete opposite of me, complete opposite of who I am now. What if I was living that,
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that all the time. And like, sometimes I do get these weird, like little thoughts in my head, like, maybe if I just lived a normal life, maybe I wouldn't fucking feel like I'm insane sometimes when I'm thinking about trying to, get to a certain level in my career, or if I'm trying to have certain, interactions with certain folks and trying to build up relationships and all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like, where would I be in that moment? Have you ever thought about that for yourself?
Absolutely. So sometimes I know what it would take to be the person that I want to be, and to be like excellent, top notch. When I think about the women in this industry that inspire me, I'm like, all right, so I'm starting to understand a little bit the sacrifices that you guys had to make, and how much you have to push yourself, like literally like grind yourself to reach those heights. And then I think about, who do I want to be? Like, what type of person do I want to be when I reach whatever my goals are? And it's, I don't want to just be Abriana, this, producer, professional. I want to be someone that is like well-rounded in what I think is well-rounded, and have like a good family, community, whatever the case may be. And so I fight with myself back and forth sometimes, where it's like, all right, I need to go harder. I can go harder, versus, life isn't just about this.
Right. So, yeah. Back on the personal side too. What about you for relationships? What's going on in what's going on in the relationship side for you?
Yeah.
I look, with all my homegirls, I be wondering, like, do they be dating or not? I feel like most of the homegirls I have, besides maybe like one or two I can think off in my head right now, I'm like, are they single? What's happening? What's going on?
So I wasn't really much of a dater, like growing up, like wasn't the type to have boyfriends in high school through college, none of that. I had my first adult relationship through 2020, and that taught me a lot. Like, I think when you have your first relationship that you put effort into, that you want this to be successful, you want this to work, and you're like making compromises, and you're like, this is what it would be like to have a partner, a union, or whatever. You just learn a lot about yourself. And so that was good. It ended and it was fine. Similarly with you though, this person was also a creative, you know what I'm saying? We also worked in the same circles. I don't necessarily hate it, and it hasn't posed a problem, but I'm not seeking it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And yeah.
Eventually though, right? Eventually you're probably at the point now where you're just like, all right, relationships aren't the most important thing for me in my life right now. I feel it.
I'm so focused on my growth and becoming who I want to be right now. I told my friend this the other day. It was like, I'm open to dating, but I'm definitely like not seeking it. So
right. Well, how you're 25, right?
I am 23, child.
23. Okay, I thought you were my age. 23. Okay, you're young still.
Oh my gosh.
When's your birthday?
May 19th.
May 19th. Oh man, I'm gonna have to like send a birthday gift or something. Because look,
we're sending gifts. We can exchange.
January 9th. Okay, mine's coming up very soon. Capricorn. I'm the greatest.
I love cats.
Come on, I'm Capricorn. But so I say all that because, like, Yeah, no, I feel it. But and it's tough when you're working with someone when you work with that person in relationships, because as you've seen with my last short film, Sweet Mirage, my ex was in the film, and she was a part of it. Now, luckily, me and my ex are still very good friends. She's still somebody who I respect highly and stuff like that. And it's cool because it was an amicable breakup. But definitely for me, when that breakup did happen, because the breakup happened actually the day the film came out, which was insane. But I guess the thing about that though was, even though that relationship was gone and it's like, okay, she was gone, it's like I was still stuck with the film that she's in, and that we kind of like not reciprocated, but replicated our real relationship. And that was a lesson for me that I had to learn, that next time, whoever I'm dating, if they're creative, maybe not to work with them as much, or not to work with them in that capacity. Because that was something that, like I said, I mean, I still have tons and tons of respect for her. She's a great person, but still,
absolutely.
It's like
I can imagine that could feel a little messy. It's like, damn, this looks cute, but y'all ain't even got no more.
Exactly. It's like the film is there, and it's something that's going to be a part of my filmography and my history forever, as far as like, what people have seen with a film and whatnot. And that was something I had to learn, just in the terms of, I mean, I'm one of those type of creatives where I like to put a lot of my personal feelings and sides of me into my work. You know what I mean?
That's like that film with Zendaya and what's his name? David Washington.
John David Washington.
David Washington. He in the film was a filmmaker who had his girlfriend inspired that whole thing, and they had a whole little tip about it.
Malcolm and Marie, yeah, that was a crazy movie because that was a very toxic relationship. It was super, super toxic, but that was a great movie. I love that.
It was,
but yeah, putting your personal sides in your work can be kind of tough in terms of that goes. But eventually, though, somebody's gonna be like, all right, they're gonna listen to this podcast. They're gonna be like, okay, Bri is single. I'm gonna go through and change her mind. Someone who's listening out there. Okay, someone. Look, treat my homegirl right. Don't y'all dirty, nasty ass people be coming in. Okay. Anyway, I want to go back to you being a PA, right? And from the Big Sean video, what did you do after that? Like after that experience, which had to be a crazy experience for you as a PA, and just being a part of a set with those different celebrities, of course, Ryan Destiny, Keith Powers, lots of great people, Lawrence Lamont. Shout out to all of them. I still actually speak to Lawrence Lamont too. I don't know if I've ever told you that. Me and Lawrence Lamont, actually, we speak not often, but every now and again, probably like maybe once every 1 or 2 months usually. So shout out to Lawrence. But anyway, what did you do after that? What was your project that you did after the Single Again video?
So I was still in school, right? And I told you I had that internship or that scholarship that made me have an internship every semester. And so I never, like, even though that, I like how you speak about it, right? Because it's a big deal. I should feel pride of being a part of something like that. But I never usually do feel those attachments to some of these projects, because it's always like on to the next. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, yeah.
And so I, after that, had another internship at a local production company, and I was doing their social media. And I would PA on when they were filming. They were doing it's called Startup Television, and so they would do features about small businesses all over the country. And so that's what I did until I graduated in 2020, and which is PA. So I met a couple of people, would do it's a lot of brand commercial stuff here in Detroit as well. So I would just do little stuff like that for real.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, because I would imagine, because I was in that same kind of boat a little bit, as far as like, well, what the hell is next? I'm always like that with every project. Like there's certain projects that are more important than others, and I guess in my timeline of things, that like I'll definitely go out and like do a lot of promoting. You know what I mean? Like I did that with the Baby Keem and Kendrick video, and I did that with Shang-Chi. Yeah, and just like, because those projects, I promote those particular projects because those are like literal like, those are huge moments in like the history of STEFON WHITAKER, as far as like how I look at it,
Yeah. And so what was your position on that?
On the Kendrick video?
Yeah.
I was a second assistant director.
Wow.
Thank you.
Even on like on projects that you PA'd on. Hold on one second. Is it too loud?
I can hear it for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna wait. Let's wait for a hot second.
People over here celebrating in your place.
They're just loud and black. No, that's just how it is.
That's funny. I think it's quieted down now.
Okay, and so even I love how you speak about the projects that you PA on, because obviously PA is one of the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to productions. I just never really felt like I had the right to claim like my part in this whatever, when especially back then when it was like Single Again, I was like, you were just a PA. It's like, it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something you should boast about. But now, I PA'd on this MasterCard commercial. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm repping that shit, period, because I was a part of it. I assisted, I helped, whatever. So
yeah, no, I would say to everybody who PAs out there, because PA is definitely looked at pretty much as, how I always like to explain PAs is that we're the freshmen of the film crew, basically. You know what I mean? We're the ones
barely the freshmen. We're on a visit of the school. Okay.
Damn, we still in 8th grade is what you're saying. That's wild. That's
not
bad.
all the time, but that's just how it can come off, because indispensable. And I mean, a lot of people feel like that. It's just like, oh, you're a blimp or whatever.
Right. I would say the reason why I like specifically on the Big Sean shoot too is it felt different for me because I was also part of one of the pre-production days, like when I left for Mother's Day, and then I think I got to Detroit. Yeah, no. On Mother's Day, actually, I was in like a pre-production room with like Hilton, Carl. Shout out to Carl. He's the second AD. I think it was Carl.
Yeah.
And then Lawrence showed up as well. Then I forget what the one producer's name was, the one lady, I forget her name, but all those people were in this room talking about what they were going to do for the next 2 days on that shoot. And I felt special because I was helping create like the call sheet and all that kind of stuff. And then actually being on set, like I had, I was trying to just help out as much as possible, and with all the different, I guess, experience and knowledge that I had, just went about the day. And then I remember the very last day too, was I was driving around Hilton and Lawrence to pick up some like extra shots and stuff. And so I felt a little bit different. I felt special, because I mean, Lawrence
played a bigger role for sure. You can claim that. You can claim that.
It felt cool. I felt good. And I just felt good about all the people I met. You, Diamond, Justin, Lawrence, Carla. I mean, everybody who I met on set who I really, really spoke to like that, I felt good about meeting. So to me, it just felt like it felt like a greater experience than usual. What? And then
I can feel that because that was a moment in, like you said, the story of you that stands out because something significant happened. And I had an experience like that on the MasterCard commercial because it was work, even though it was like the middle of the pandemic, the director wasn't even there. Everything was through Zoom.
Really?
It was a director that I love.
She's amazing.
Woman, Child, shout out to you.
Child is amazing.
I was like, I'm working on a commercial directed by Child, period. And then I was the key PA on that one. It was super small, so like not necessarily.
That's dope.
I was the one who like brought on the other PAs and called them.
No, that's great.
Like,
claim that.
You know what I'm saying?
That.
Like, yeah. So I was like lead PA on that one, and she like kind of. I was standing in for one of the talent or whatever, and she was like, "Who is this PA right there?" And she was talking about me. And she was like, girl, you have been killing it. Like this whole shoot, I've been seeing you. And that just felt so fucking good. I was like, just my fifth period. So yeah, it was like maybe something smaller, like probably, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
it's
that's
something
amazing.
That stood out to me.
That's dope. For everyone who doesn't know who Directed by Child is, Child has directed some of the most amazing music videos as of late, like for Lucky Day. I think she did something for SZA, I believe, too, and Ari Lennox.
And all the time,
so many amazing people, and that's incredible. I wanted to talk about that too because that project seemed like it was so dope. And I remember you were telling me about it. And I'm like, damn, this shit, that's hella cool because there's not too many like projects I've worked on where there's like a legendary director attached to it. There's only been a few. Venom 2, when it comes out. By the time this airs, people have seen the picture, but I don't know if you know who Andy Serkis is.
Mm-mm.
Andy Serkis he's a motion capture artist, right? If you've ever watched Caesar from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, or like
Okay.
Smeagol from Lord of the Rings, or like any crazy ass like fantasy ass monster that talks British
Yeah.
wise or whatever, he's been King Kong too. Like, he is a legend, and he
Yeah.
directed this movie. He was also in Black Panther. If you remember Black Panther, he was the one dude named Claw. He had like the claw as an arm, the white dude, and ends up getting killed by Michael B. Jordan. I don't know if you remember that, but that was him. That's Andy Serkis. He directed Venom 2. And then the DP on Venom 2 was actually Quentin Tarantino's DP, which was kind of nuts to like see, like, holy shit, that's him. But director wise, it's not been too many. There's not been too many directors where I'm like, oh shit, this dude has worked on this and that and this and that. It's only been a few. So that's really cool that you got to work with somebody that you've already been a fan of.
Weird. Yes, that was great. And then the subject matter of it, we were highlighting Black businesswomen. I'm like, okay, period. Like, this is the content that I want to do. This is, the stories that I want to tell. This is the projects for me. And I just felt so good being on that.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, as a PA though, right? As a PA, like, yeah, I for me, like Shang-Chi, right? Shang-Chi was such a huge crew. Venom 2 was such a pretty huge crew. Matrix, huge crew. But like all of those projects, because they're those particular projects, like I'm going to talk about them, about my experience, because I had special experiences on every single one of those films. Venom 2, I got to, like I said, meet Andy Serkis, take a picture with him, got to meet Tom Hardy in passing. I drank with Woody Harrelson in a bar like right after one of the days on set. That's fucking insane. Matrix, I met Keanu Reeves. I was basically next to Keanu Reeves on Valentine's Day the entire freaking night. That was insane. I have special like experiences, even on the Baby Keem and Kendrick video. I was a second AD, so I had a little bit more role, had more important job than like, I guess, a normal PA would. But like specifically on that, like I remember, you've seen the music video, right?
I have.
So, in the very beginning of the music video where it's like all of them in this mosh pit and they're all kind of like, going crazy, in slow motion, whatever. We had to like, so it was like 40 or 50 background in that scene, right? So I had to hold a rope around the entire group to keep them in place. And I was the one holding the rope. And Kendrick is right in front of me, like right in front of me the entire time. And I'm like, in my mind, it's pretty much the only production that I've been like, I cannot believe I'm here right now. Yeah. Because Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite artists of all time. He's in my top 5 of all time.
Yeah.
And to like literally be working with this dude, it was something in the back of my mind where I was like, I know that I want to work with Kendrick. I just didn't know when, I didn't know how or where it was going to be at. And then it just happened to be there. It was one of those moments that I manifested that came true, to where it's like, I can like, it made me believe in so much more shit, like about my career and about manifestation and just, speaking things positively, and that was incredible. That was incredible. So, but as a PA, I like to claim those things as far as like my experience, because my experience is definitely, I can definitely claim that. You know what I mean? One thing though, I wanted to ask for you, with the idea of a PA, right? I remember one time, I think in your bio, I used to see that you had put your PA in your bio on like Instagram and stuff like that. Like, was that when you started PAing a little bit more, did you want to start to claim, I guess, more PA work? Did you think about trying to move up in those different positions, in those different departments?
I think during that time, I had seen maybe someone had PA in their bio. I had wanted to be more clear about what I do. And at the time, it was like heavy. I was like working on No Sudden Moves, and I did, I think, Black Mafia Family after that, but definitely on No Sudden Moves during that time. I was like, ooh, I found out what like a second AD was, what an AD was. And I was like, I could see myself being in those roles. And so this is the, trajectory to get there. I don't know.
Right. Well, now you are over here doing huge fucking things as a producer.
Cool stuff so far. Yeah.
Come on. Talk about that. How did you, first of all, tell me about that first gig that you did as a producer, how you got into that role and just how that whole experience was.
Yeah, I was definitely thrown into it. It was one of the connections that I know. This guy in Detroit named Aaron Dawson, he owns a company and hit me up and was like, do you want to produce this like Q-Line? Q-Line is this transportation system in the city. And so he's like, do you want to produce this Q Line commercial? I was like, yeah. And like, he just literally like put me in, it was like, he hadn't even won the bid yet. And so it was like, we were starting from super scratch, but it was cool because I was able to be kind of mentored through the process. I was leaning heavily on him for like what is supposed to happen next. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, as a PA, you join when a lot of these things are already built. You're just there kind of assisting the day of. But as far as like pre-production, hiring crew, definitely had my fair share of learning to do about budget, all of that. So that was cool. Sorry, I'm trying to like bring myself back there.
Yeah, like what was the project for, first off?
Yeah, so Q1. Hold on, wait. Let me think. Because I've done a couple now.
Oh, okay, big shit. Look, that's what hold on, wait a minute. That was smooth, yo. That was very, very smooth.
Make sure
that was hella smooth.
No, I'm lying. Totally lying. It wasn't Q Line. It was Rocket Mortgage. Okay, there we go.
Okay, Rocket Mortgage, yes.
This was such a stressful time in my life. Okay, I would love to tell this story. So my first commercial, I was not in Detroit. I was in Chicago for my birthday weekend with my then boyfriend. And I got the call and he was like, Bri, I need you to hop on this call real quick. And, you know, we started the process while I was like out of town. So I was stressed, like hella stressed, trying to just make sure I was on top of my game. And I'm meeting clients, like I'm meeting Rocket Mortgage in Detroit, it's just billionaires, millionaires, you know what I'm saying? Like that's big. Wow. And so you know, figuring out what the story is that needs to be told. It was for the emergency broadcast benefit, which is like a federal program. They were bringing discounted internet to individuals in the city who need it. And so working with them and getting like a script and casting and locations and crew and all of that. And they needed to shoot it in like 2 weeks. And so it was ridiculous. That's when I had my breakthrough. Like I have epiphanies all the time, but that was the first time I had ever like broken down, like bawling, crying, freaking out, anxiety attack, just freaking ridiculous, trying to like balance just that in life. Like I'm celebrating my birthday here. Like, what are you talking about? I'm not even home. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was ridiculous. But it definitely taught me like just emotionally how to handle these situations. Like to just, I don't know, I have my processes now when it's like I'm starting a project or I'm, you know, becoming stressed or overwhelmed in this crazy ass job. I have my processes that I do to like stay level-headed and just keep moving. And then I learned like as a producer, like I can't do that. And that's not even me. Like that's not even my personality type. I'm not the freak out person. Like I'm very level-headed. Like there's a solution to this, but for some reason it was just like a lot of pressure on me. And figured it out, got it done. It went hella well. Like I just be putting so much like I don't know, I just have very high expectations of myself and expect myself to rise to the occasion, and I did. It's pretty good.
That's great. I mean, I've been there. I've been there where it's been like you're in that moment and you feel like things are like kind of going wrong or feel like you're not doing the best that you possibly could. And you start to kind of like, that's where the nerves play against you. And it's just like things, especially when you realize you're responsible for a whole crew, especially as a producer. Like you're responsible for the whole crew, the budget, how the clients feel. You're responsible for that in a lot of ways, you know? But of course that all goes to like the team that you had to help you be comfortable and help you calm those nerves down and let you know like, hey, we're going to get this shit done. Things are going to be nice. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for that, because that's an amazing thing to feed, because for myself, I've produced a lot of, I mean, basically every single project that I do for SW Films, I produce, and they're not like always gigantic projects, you know what I mean? But specifically the last production that I would say that was kind of a decent sized production that I produced was this music video for this R&B singer, Dion Jada. Shout out to Dion. Shot a music video for her sometime like in May, I think, of this year. And I had a decent crew, but I wanted to make sure that the experience overall was good for her. Like I remember I brought on a like this girl who was like 13 or something, she was like a job shadow sit-in person to like who wanted to be an actress and a singer. So I was like, all right, here, first day on set, you can go ahead and, you know, kind of ask questions to Dion and how she does her stuff and this, that, and the third. And then we shot in a newly opened Black-owned restaurant too, to give them some business, you know, just from putting their video putting their place in the video, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I always like to make sure that people have a good experience when they work with me. And that's just more of the producer side that comes out of it. Like the director side is how I treat my actors and the crew and stuff. Of the producer side, just making sure people feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Even when we're all thrown into the fire, it's like, if there's any way I can shield everybody, you know, let me try to do that the best way possible.
I be apologizing for shit that's not even my fault. I be like, I'm so sorry. How can I help fix this? Girl, that ain't even got nothing to do with you. I know, but
that's amazing that you did that project. And like I said, I'm proud of you for that. How many more producer gigs have you gotten since then?
So after that, I actually skipped a step, right? So I went straight from PA to producer. I didn't even coordinate at that point. And so after that, I had become a production coordinator, working with the local company, Get Super Rad. And so I would be a key PA / like coordinator and just making sure coordinating things were done. But my first like huge, real deal, multi-million dollar coordinating job was for this Blue Cross Blue Shield commercial. I haven't even posted it yet because I feel like I done lost some years off of my life working on that damn project. And I really got a taste of what that is supposed to be in terms of like, I had to make like a pre-pro book. We were flying people in and out from different cities. We had to do like those prep days. We had to get some random shit last minute. Like it was just super duper crazy. Like they were still finalizing scripts and this, that, and the third. It was like wild. Wow. And you know, handling all the coordinating needs throughout the production, that's fine for me. Like being on set, it's cool, just get what needs to be done. And then like going through rap, that was my first time going through rap. That shit was ridiculous. It's still not
it's a lot, right?
I still get emails to this day. I'm like, yo, I don't know what's going on. Leave me alone. Like I'm not even with that company no more. Like, yeah, that was crazy. Being a coordinator made me realize I don't want to necessarily do that, but
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I just keep working with the same people for real. And so I worked with Aaron multiple times. I worked with Get Super Rad a couple of times, and now my friends are, you know, who I've made in the industry are writing scripts, and they want me to help them out with those things. And that's something that I'm always told to like pursue, like my own independent production. Like I want to do a documentary, start that step. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what's holding me back. I haven't decided to take that leap, but I'm definitely down for helping my friends. And so that's what I'm doing right now. It's just
for sure. Like I always be planning my different projects in the future. And best believe there's a project that I want to do about like Black love and all this kind of stuff. A little like in the future. But I've already tagged you as one of my producers. For sure on the shoot.
I love Black love. Yeah.
You know, because I've literally been thinking about that for a long time now. I actually I've had this particular story in my head, honestly, since the Big Sean shoot. After meeting like Keith and Ryan, because I had like heard about them beforehand, but I'd like when I actually seen them on set, that's when I kind of reminded me like, oh shit, these guys are actually like an actual couple, and like my time talking to them on set was hella cool folks and whatnot. So I for sure want to have you as a producer on that in due time whenever that happens. But as far as you producing, right? Tell me this, out of the stuff that you learned in college, is there anything that you applied to those producing jobs? Was there anything that you learned in college from any of those classes that you can remember that you utilized into your work on those jobs as a producer or a coordinator or as a PA even?
Sure, probably plenty of stuff. Obviously not abstractly, right? Because I didn't go to school for film. But let me think. Okay, so this is how I think about certain things, right? My She was like my counselor, not my counselor. What's it called?
Therapist.
Advisor.
Oh.
She was my advisor in college, right? And we were
Yeah.
in the learning community, and she would always say there's fact and story. And this was for anything. If we were late, like, and they were so strict on time, but if you were late, you were kicked out. And so, like, there's the story, like your car may have broken down, you know what I'm saying, on the freeway, or some family emergency happened. That's your story. But the fact is that you were late. And so if you break that rule, it's like gone. And so, and so I think about that when it comes to like problem solving. It's like, I don't care how this thing happened. Like, the fact is that it happened and I need to get something done. I don't care what, I don't know. That's just how I approach like solving and coming up with solutions for things on the fly or whatever it has to do. Be with the producer. That's how I kind of keep the fluff out of it. That's how I keep emotions out of it. It's like, whatever needs to be done, it needs to get done. What else? Definitely punctuality. I'm not one to be late whatsoever. If I'm late, it's rare.
Yeah, well, that's great because people like I like the idea of color people time, like that whole that whole like analogy is just so wild. And I try to be on time as possible. Because I feel like even besides just black people saying, oh, he on color time, he gonna take a minute to get here, I think just shit now it's becoming the point that's spilled over into these other races and ethnicities, so they just expect that they say the same shit too. So that's good. Keep up with that. All the black people out here watching that I know are creatives and entrepreneurs in this kind of space, please be on time, be before time, all that. But go ahead, continue what you were saying.
I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to identify anything specific. Sorry.
No, that's good. I think you kind of answered that. I think there's probably definitely a lot of things that you were doing on set that you probably didn't realize, like, oh shit, this is something that I had, that I had applied in school or that I had applied while I was in school, and I think that's just amazing as well. Just that you could get to that level, to jump from like a PA to just all of a sudden all these different producing gigs. And like I said, it's only going to get bigger. Like you just did the Blue Cross, Blue Health, like that. It's going to be bigger to where now it's going to be some more music videos where that will happen, some films, it's just like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Detroit, right? I want to talk about Detroit because you are a Detroit native. And one thing I know about you that I see about you as well is that you love Detroit.
I love Detroit. That's home.
You love Detroit. And I want to ask you, what was it like for you growing up in Detroit? What was that? What was your childhood like growing up and all the way up until who you are now, obviously?
Okay. Yeah. So I grew up on the east side of Detroit. And every city has their distinctions between what area you grew up in. And the east side was considered, like, west side was more affluent. And so the east side, I grew up in the hood, but I always say that I grew up in the hood, but I'm not from the street. So my parents were I was sheltered, you know what I'm saying? Grew up pretty religious. And so I wasn't hip, and honestly, I'm probably still not hip to a lot of, street things. But I really, really claim the east side of Detroit because I feel like that's what made me a down-to-earth, humble, hustling woman. You know what I mean? So went to Cass Tech, which was another, like, it's like history in the city, right? You go to Cass Tech, that's if you're trying to either just improve yourself, excel, go far, that's one of the high schools that you want to go to. And that changed my idea about what was possible for my future. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get caught up in the unfortunate perils that our system puts on young women, as far as like getting caught up in like sex and pregnancy and drugs and drinking and none of that. I was like really focused on my studies. And then it's black as fuck. Black as fuck. So really my lens was that, like, I didn't realize how white the world was until I was in high school, college. I was like, oh, I'm the minority. Okay, like I didn't realize that. But that has also shaped how I want to tell stories and just the impact that I want to have in helping other Black people realize our value and what we can contribute and how pivotal we are to just society in general.
Right.
Detroit people, I think, are cool. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, down to earth, just very much like, I don't have a problem until there needs to be a problem type person. A little flash. I don't mind our little, you know what I'm saying? People like to have their sauce. I just think it's a
The
cool
style,
place. Not without its flaws. Like, it's in terms of like marketability, I don't know. So I studied like history in college, and just learning about the past of Detroit is like, we didn't live up to what our potential could have been. And that's because of a lot of the leaders that we had in the city. And I think that's unfortunate. I think we have immense potential in terms of like our land, you know what I'm saying? In terms of how it can scale and grow, and what markets we can tap into. Is just right now on the brink of that, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, one thing that you said, that you just said, you know, I remember talking about like you growing up in a very Black place, obviously in East Side Detroit, to where college is like the very first time you like I guess noticed like, oh shit, I'm a minority, you know. It's interesting. I don't know if you remember when I came back home in like November or December, whenever I met up with you guys last year, when I came back, and I remember I talked about how I grew up basically the opposite of that.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, like I grew up around majority white folks. I grew up kind of, I guess, knowing that I was a minority. You know, my family had to tell me kind of early on, specifically about what, you know, the situation that was going on. But as I went into college, things changed. Like when I went to college, when I went to Full Sail in Florida, like I was not just introduced to a whole lot more Black people, but like Puerto Ricans, you know, Haitians, just a whole bunch of different cultures in school, you know, and that was amazing. And especially even being out here in California, I'm experiencing that even more, that I never knew. Even in my past relationship, like she's Eritrean, so like I had to kind of learn about that whole dynamic with Ethiopians and Eritreans, and even how they kind of view Black Americans. Very different, very a whole different topic, but like that was something that was interesting for me to kind of delve into that, you know, because I feel like obviously once we go into college, our whole perspective on life kind of really takes a huge change, you know. Like when you went to Wayne State, and it's funny because I almost went. I thought I didn't go to. I was not almost going to go to Wayne State, but I remember that I think they have a football team there, right? Yeah. I thought about playing football in college, and Wayne State was, I think, on the list of like schools that kind of like got approached to me at one point, and I never ended up going, obviously. But what was it like going to Wayne State? What was that whole experience like, and why did you choose to go to school in Detroit? College, like,
I credit my experience at Wayne State to where I am today. It's while it introduced me to a lot of different cultures, opened my eyes to the demographics of the world, it's still in the heart of the Blackest city. And so the program that I was in was the GEM Institute of Media Diversity. And so our emphasis was on finding success for minorities. You know what I'm saying? And so Wayne State introduced me to professionals around the world, professionals locally, taught me how to network ethically, you know what I'm saying? And trying to, dang, I lost my comment because I got distracted. Ask me again.
Like, well, what made you choose Wayne State? Like, why did you go? Did you have any other options to like go to school outside of Michigan, or what how did it lead you to stay in Detroit?
Yeah, so I wasn't ever the type to really be like, oh, I have to go to college. I need to, want to go to college and leave home. It was just like, that's what was supposed to be my path. I was smart in high school, and I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do after high school or what I could have gotten into. Besides, like I said, my family was very religious. So it was either follow my own path and my passions or go into the full-time biblical ministry. And I wasn't sure I wanted to do that.
No way. That you would have been doing that's what you almost would have been.
That kind of would have been my path. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
crazy. So I got the scholarship. I got scholarships to a couple of schools in Michigan. I only applied to like schools in Michigan because, like I said, I wasn't trying to leave home like that. And chose Wayne State, and it was good.
It was a cool experience. That's great. See, one thing I really loved about when I worked on the Big Sean video is just like, I think what made me like really love that experience a lot too is like I was kind of seeing it felt like a lot of local folks who were from Detroit worked on that, local filmmakers and stuff like that. That was really amazing because, when I think about Michigan as well, because Michigan, like, there's a place called Coldwater, Michigan, which is like literally like a fucking quick drive from where Angola, Indiana is. Like Michigan, it would take 5 minutes to drive over to Michigan. So I always think of like Michigan and Indiana. Obviously, it's all the Midwest, so it all has like a similar vibe to it. But I even think that way when it comes to creatives. Like I feel like the weight of the creatives and the amount of the creatives here in California or like New York or Atlanta is much bigger and larger than it is probably in anywhere in the Midwest, really.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's creatives in the Midwest 1000%, but definitely not at the same size as those bigger places. So when I think about those smaller communities, it always like excites me because like, oh, these are who these local folks are in the city. And I want to ask you, like, what is the industry like, I guess, in Detroit? Because when I see that all the stuff that you work on, I'm like, damn, she's out here really, really working. Detroit must got a community, because I don't know. I don't know if it has a community or not. So I guess, what is your take on it? Is it a pretty decent sized community as far as the film industry and just creatives in general?
I wouldn't say it's at all comparable to any of the places you named at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty small. I think a lot of folks find their success in the commercial side of things, the film side of things. Like we recently last weekend had the Detroit Film Fest. And obviously, just because you have a camera don't mean you need to be making a movie. So it's like, it's people out here doing stuff for sure. You know what I'm saying? But the quality of it, I don't think it's all the way there. But there are, of course, hidden gems everywhere. And so I've been fortunate enough to have like a really good, talented network. Like I feel like everyone that I've worked with on the corporate side or on the creative film side or even on like the branding side have just been excellent at their craft. And it's beautiful that they're still here because they don't need to be. You know what I'm saying? Like they could probably do very well in somewhere where they would get more lucrative, consistent work. That's something that I think about for my future. I've never been a 5-10 year plan type of person, but I've recently been putting thought into it. And if I want to leave, I'm open to working and going anywhere, but I definitely want to facilitate more of these things in Detroit for the creatives who want to be here. You know what I'm saying? I think it'd be a great opportunity.
That's very beautiful, because what you said is something I think about a lot about my hometown, is like creating something that other people can facilitate here in your spot to help other creatives who are just trying to get started, helping them have somewhere to go, somewhere to kind of, follow, a path to follow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because I don't know, Detroit has such a rich history in just the entire like United States. You know what I mean? Detroit is one of those places that, for some people think that maybe Detroit has had like some big downfalls, and then it's kind of started to like come back up in the past like decade or so. Obviously, Michigan and Detroit in general has been big in the automotive industry. So that's always been like its number one shining thing as far as like GMC and Ford and all those big ass manufacturers. So when it comes to like the creative side of it, it's interesting just to hear where it's at. Like, obviously, I imagine like with music, right? Like in the music scene in Detroit, there's obviously a pretty big music scene. I mean, you look at people like Eminem, Big Sean, fucking who else, man? I know I'm forgetting people.
Even like those are like those who made it. You know what I'm saying? But being here in the city, and I feel like I Swear Bizzo, like Babyface or Baby Smooth, 42 Doug, these are people who like are starting to get that commercial success from the city, and I feel like that there could be more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like when it comes to like certain places, how there's certain cities in the world, or in the world, but it's specifically in America, where it's like, okay, these cities have produced the most talent. Like a lot of people, to me, it's sometimes what I think about is obviously New York City, just New York in general. You look at Chicago produces so much talent. Detroit is on that list of places
Yes,
that
I've always
provide so much.
compared and considered Detroit, and like I remember the first time I went to Chicago and I realized how Detroit was in Chicago, and I was disappointed. But in my mind, I was like,
Yeah.
Detroit and Chicago, like they're synonymous. What are you talking about? And I feel
Yeah,
like Detroit can be on that level. I know it can,
absolutely.
and not just
1000%.
like in terms of the people it yields, but its infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. Detroit is very, 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 very reminiscent of Oakland.
Mm,
Completely. Detroit and Oakland have
yeah,
such a
I hear that.
similar energy, like the people kind of, well, I wouldn't say the people are always the same because the Bay Area just has a very specific kind of culture, which that I love. And I think is the Bay Area is just it's so specific in their culture. But Oakland and Detroit, the city itself has a very synonymous feel. It's just as far as sometimes the layout kind of feels oddly enough the same in some ways. Sometimes they got the Detroit tough attitudes, like Oakland kind of has that same little version of whatever that might be, Oakland tough, hyphy, whatever it might be. They might have something that could be compared to that. And I don't know, yeah, Detroit is just such a special place, and that's why I thought about moving there. I think it's the people, because if it wasn't for like meeting y'all, I probably would have said, nah, I don't know. I don't really know anybody out here. I don't know what the energy is going to be like. But I'm like, nah, I just met some hella cool ass people that I feel like I could work and create with,
Yeah.
And that's why I think Detroit is just an amazing spot. It just has so many hidden gems. It also reminds me a little bit of Gary, Indiana, for the good reasons though, because a lot of people look at Gary crazy. But Gary and Detroit have some similarities too, in some ways, on a positive side and maybe a negative side too, just a little bit. But as far as you though, wanting to step away from Detroit eventually, where could you see yourself? Where do you want to go if you even want to leave?
Yeah, it's so funny. I had this conversation with someone earlier. I honestly feel like I'm the type of person who would follow the work. So I don't have a dream life where I'm envisioning a specific city. I have a dream life where I'm envisioning me doing a specific thing. And that is whatever the hell I want to do. That's my goal in life, is to be able to wake up and decide what I want to do for the day and
Yeah,
be all right. So
yeah,
obviously when I was like in 2020, I was considering moving to New York or Atlanta or even California, somewhere. I wasn't sure. But that's just because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do anything because that's the path that most people take. That's the path that is, supposedly going to lead me somewhere. I want to make decisions based off of my life and my life trajectory. And I'm also sometimes grappling with that, where it's like, I don't want to be, stagnant. I want to see the world. I want to travel. I want to be whatever, but I also have to move at my own
right.
life's pace, like following my intuition and wherever that leads me. So I'm down for
That's
whatever.
real.
I'm down to leave the country. I can't even consider a Canada.
Yeah, because you're right there. I
Right
mean,
here. I love a
you could
Toronto.
go across the bridge. I mean, it's right there. And
Yes,
Canada has a nice film industry, actually.
probably.
Yeah, no, they really do. That Canada actually has a nice film industry. They actually do a lot of stuff over there. So that would be perfect. That's it's interesting you say that though. I mean, with maybe with like, I guess you said that being sheltered, did that kind of maybe keep you a little bit in Detroit and in Michigan just for a little bit though?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think my upbringing was like it wasn't even like super family oriented. We are not like besties like that. So I don't want it to I'm like, oh, I'm scared to leave my mom. Like, I know I love that woman and she encourages me to do what I need to do and leave and all of that. But it's like I said, I am such a comfort driven person. And something that people always have told me, and I don't know, for some reason sticks with me, is like, save as much as you can, live with your parents for as long as you can, because there's stuff out here. And don't tell me that, child, because I'm not trying to be struggling.
Yeah.
Say it's easier at home. I'm staying at home. But I
Yeah.
definitely am yearning and see. I just literally wrote down, I'm gonna tell you this. I wrote down in my journal last night what my 5-year plan is. And it is to live in Detroit, but be able to travel for work wherever necessary and possible. And that's just 5 years. And that's like this. Time's going like this.
This goes by quick. Yeah.
when you get into the tens and stuff, who knows? But that's kind of where I see myself being more independent, but definitely, cultivating life at home.
That's great. And that makes part of that kind of makes me happy too, because I always want to, for my people like yourself and people back in Indiana, like I want everyone to be successful or whatever it is that they want to do. And I was like, sometimes I think, oh, well, like for instance, for a lot of creatives, right? I feel like some people see that I'm in California, and the reality of it all is, and maybe the unrealisticness of it too, is that if I wasn't in California, would I be this successful still?
Mm-hmm.
I ask myself that a lot sometimes. Like I think about what if I did move in 2019? What if I stayed the rest of the year in 2019 in Angola, Indiana? Where the hell would I be? And I would have been depressed. I would have.
So true. Not about the depression, but like now, like thinking about myself. Not that I feel like I'm limiting myself, but definitely I need to be willing and push myself. I know I'm the type of person that needs to like force myself to do something. To rise to that occasion and challenge and see. I need to allow myself to fail. That's one thing that I hate. I hate not being good at something. I hate failure. It sucks. I don't like it. So if I'm scared that I'm not going to be good at something, it takes me such a long time to even get started on it. And so that's something, like I said, I'm becoming more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm also embracing failure a little bit more too. So maybe
you have to
at your door, like, hey, yo, I'm excited.
No, 1000%. You got a place to stay. You come through. It's all love out here. Like, but my thing is too, is what I mean by I'm happy with that is because I know that like I always want to make sure that I have a base back home. Like Indiana, the Midwest, it's home. Like, believe me, when I'm out here, people will tell you, and I've started to see myself do it kind of sometimes not on purpose, sometimes just on accident. Sometimes it's just like an automated response. I'll let people know, look, I'm not from the Bay. I'm from Indiana. I come from Indiana where there's hella corn, and all this kind of shit. And, a lot of people sometimes will shit talk Indiana because, it's Indiana. It's the home of the Ku Klux Klan. It's all this other kind of wild ass shit. Right. And like, but at the same time, Indiana is still, if it wasn't for me growing up in Angola, if it wasn't for me, going through everything that I went through growing up, I would not be the person that people, like or love or respect out here in California. You know what I mean? So I love that I would still have a base there as far as like people I can create with out there, because like I'm with you. I want to be here in the Bay, but still traveling. Like I kind of already have been traveling back to Indiana, working on stuff out there, or traveling to Detroit and working on stuff with you or Diamond or whoever the fuck else, or traveling to Chicago to go work on something. Just like, I like that, because obviously it's like you already know like what you're doing is going to lead you to wherever the fuck, like you said, like you're in that trajectory. Like I know sometimes, like for me, right, I always wonder how some people look at, like, I guess my success. I remember you commented on the Shang-Chi thing. I forget what you had said, but it was a really nice comment. I'm gonna see if I can find it low key, actually.
Oh, what did I say?
It was a really nice comment. Hold on. Because it made me think to myself, like, okay, how do people look at me? And where's it at? Okay, you said, I'm in awe at your talent and success, such a humble and supportive friend, proud of you. Legendary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because I feel like you still show so much love to anybody you've met across like your journey. And that's kind of how I want to be as well. I'm not ever shitting on nobody who is at any space in their life. You know what I'm saying? I don't, none of that. And I just appreciate you, like you said, how you want to be a supportive friend. I appreciate your support. And I also want to show that to you as well. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And see, but what I want to tell you is that however you may feel about me, you're already in that same category though. For real though, because there's different facets of like, I guess, different facets of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not legendary, because then I feel like I'm just over here inflating the hell out of my head.
Be legendary.
Oh, well, of course, this is the Excellent Podcast, so there's different facets of excellence. That's what it is.
Love that.
The thing is like, you have, like I said, there's stuff that I see from you that I'm like hella inspired by it. And let me tell you, I am not a person who is easily inspired by anything.
Oh, wow.
I'm not inspired by a lot of shit, at least not by a lot. I'm inspired by a lot of things, but I'm not inspired by a lot that I see personally sometimes from some people. Like, you know, that's no diss to anybody, but there's just not a lot of stuff that I see that I'm like, okay, this is really, really amazing. I'm really just inspired by how you're moving in a place like Detroit, which is not like a community like a Bay Area or like a LA or wherever the hell else, but you're making the best out of it. Like you're getting opportunities that people there's people that you might not even know that like look up to you and be like, I cannot, like Abriana is my favorite person. I want to learn everything that she has learned. I want her to teach me. Do you ever think about that for yourself? Like, do you ever think about how important it is to be who you are for certain people?
My gosh. So I recently met with the life coach and she read me for filth. Okay. She didn't read me, but I was like, I was talking about how I'm always inspired by other people as well. And we were talking about trying to find my why and my purpose and just all of that. And she was like, do you think about that? Do you think about how you may also be a source of inspiration for other people? And that could be also a reason and why you're doing what you're doing. Because I felt like I was being selfish. Like a lot of the things that I do, like you know, finding success in my career. My mother is supporting me through that. And just like all these people who are supporting me, I just felt like it was just too much, like me. And I wanted to prove that I want to help and give to others. And she said, you can help others by being your best self. Like you can be a help to others and inspiration or whatever by being successful.
Absolutely.
And something, I literally wrote this down while we were talking because I want to put this on Instagram.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Black women are so responsible for many of my firsts in this industry. And I didn't realize that until this conversation. Wow. My high school journalism teachers who introduced me to my college advisor who gave me the scholarship, who then pushed me to have that DPTV internship, which then led me into PAing. And so all of these Black women are responsible for where I am today. And I want to be that for other people as well. Wow. And so I try my best to like share everything, put people on, all that, you know what I mean? So I'm starting to embrace that and not run away from who I feel like I'm destined to be and run away from my greatness. I used to really like try, because I was just raised on humility, right? Just like, you don't want to be boastful or prideful, and it's like a negative thing. And I'm not bragging on myself, but you also have to realize who you are and what your potential are and how great you are. And that's good stuff too. So
absolutely.
I'm steps a little bit.
Nah, 1000%. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's what the whole Excellent podcast is about, is like, I want people to like humble brag about themselves. You know what I mean? Because my thing is this, right? Like how I look at that in terms just for myself is I know where I come from too. Like I know the history of what it is to be me and the history of my family. Like, you know, my family. So I told this on one of the last podcasts, but my family was the first Black family to live in the town of Angola, Indiana, which Angola is a super small town. It's only 8,000 people. But like in Steuben County, where Angola is in, has like 101 lakes, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not, but 101 lakes is what it's known for. And there's an area called Fox Lake, where most of the Black people back in the day would live at, which wasn't like a huge populace of Black people, obviously, because my family came there, it was like in the early 1950s or something like that. So basically, you know, the racism shown back then was much more hands-on. Let's just say that, you know. So my family broke down in Angola, Indiana, and they were told like, hey, y'all can't live here. Y'all go to Fox Lake. That's your area to be at. That's where all the other Black people are at, you know. But my grandfather was like, no, I'm not doing that. He had to walk to Fox Lake to like find some people to help him out with his vehicle and stuff like that. And you know, all that. But once he got settled, he's like, nah, I'm going to live in this damn town. Y'all are not going to push me and my family out. Y'all are not going to touch us. Y'all are not going to tell us what the fuck to do.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I love that. He's crazy.
Exactly. You know, and he built it up. And like my entire family on my mom's side is born from, you know, my aunts and uncles and my mom born there. And I was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but raised in Angola. So like, I feel like my hometown, I owe something to my family. specifically more of my immediate family, but I owe something to the legacy of my family. Wow. So that's why when I think about, damn, if I could, what if I was like a normal ass person? Not saying I couldn't be great in that space either, you know, but I feel like the way how, you know, through my interests and the things that I love, I feel like I have to be great in what the hell I'm doing. I can't be an average person.
And it's not like you have to, but I understand, because you want someone who's a Black kid who's growing up where you came from to say like, oh, he came from here.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Oh, that's crazy.
Exactly. And that's why for yourself, I love that you say that like Black women have been the part of all of your firsts, which is like amazing, you know, because now you're going to get to the point, you're only 23, but as you get older, you're going to start to realize that there's so much more people that you don't even know who is really looking up to you. You got followers on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, wherever, who are like, yo, Abriana is such an inspiration to me. Like, I love the things that she's doing. Like, she makes me realize that this shit is possible. Like those moments, I've had to embrace those moments for myself. Like, I know that I inspire people. I know that there's people who look up to me, and like, I embrace that. And I want to embrace it more by actually giving things back instead of just creating, you know, because sometimes, you know, it's the selfish part. I don't know. I don't really look at much of the shit that I do in my career as selfish. Like I'm so not level-headed, but I'm so into my work to where like I feel like I'm only dealing with myself. I feel like I might be selfish, but I realize what I'm doing it for. And as I'm along in this process, that's when I start to realize like, okay, I need to give back in some kind of way, whether it's gathering people up together to give them some knowledge, to give them some opportunities to work on one of my sets or whatever, to meet certain people. So that's kind of what I realized that I have to do for the next 3 to 5 years for myself. And then obviously continue on doing that in different ways, you know?
Absolutely.
One of my last questions for you though, just in terms of just how important it is to be a Black woman in this industry, in this world. I want you to kind of talk about just your experience as far as like you being a Black woman in Detroit, working in the film industry. How has that, like, I guess, empowered you? And also, how has that kind of maybe discouraged you in ways too? I want to hear those moments.
Yeah. So I'll start with discouragement, unfortunately, because that's the one that sticks out the most. I remember being on set of No Sudden Moves, and I was the only Black woman on my team. There were other Black men, but I was like literally sitting here with I was on like COVID duty basically. And so we're checking people in, and being completely like, I was invisible. Like there was a guy sitting next to me and a guy standing like right here, and someone who approached and like had a whole conversation. I'm even participating in this conversation before he walked up, and he is not. Like, I felt so invisible, and that makes you feel so small when your voice is not heard, literally. And I'm like, am I the only one that just peeped that? They noticed it, everybody noticed it. I'm like, what's tea? Like, I don't get it. And so that's I remember that stuck out to me, because I was like, I'm never letting it happen again. I'm definitely not one to shy away from anybody. And I did at that moment, and it didn't feel good. And so I don't like not standing up for myself. And so that's something that I've learned to do through these past couple of years, is to just let my voice be heard, however it needs to be heard, be seen. And it also puts a little bit of extra pressure on me to be perfect, quote unquote, to not mess up. You know what I mean? A lot of people are already underestimating my abilities when I work on larger projects that aren't, that are just larger projects, period. Have been so underestimated. So it forces me to show up. As far as the other part of the question was, how do I feel?
How does it empower you to be a Black woman in this industry?
When I'm able to put people on. Now I'm in a position where I can hire folks, child. Don't give a Black woman power. Don't do it, because now I'm using that, period. I put the homies on, and obviously people who deserve it, who are worth it, who not worth it, but you know what I'm saying, who have worked for it, who are ready, who are just not seen. You know what I'm saying? It's like, just honestly, I tell people all the time, let me know what it is, what you want to do, because I know, like, a decent amount of folks. I know a couple of people in different industries across different fields, not just production or related to production. I just love to like be a resource. Oh my goodness, it feels so good when I can be like, okay, I can't specifically help you with this, but if you want your shit, then I can put you in contact with somebody who can help you. So
absolutely. That's great. That's amazing. Cause it's so important. Like, you know, because I feel it. I've been in situations on the discouraging side where it's like, damn, I'm the only Black person on this shoot. I remember I did a shoot for Masterclass. It was like I forget who the dude was, but he did something where he was like a sleep professional. It was a pretty interesting shoot, and it was my first Masterclass shoot. It was kind of cool, but I just remember that was like not too long before the elections, I think, of last year. And I just remember there was like these two white dudes, the medic, who was this white dude who was a Trump supporter, and then this second AC who he ended up like having like a kind of a argument with about Trump, who was against Trump, you know, basically. But it was very interesting because during that argument between these two white dudes who are arguing about Trump, I just remember I felt like, weirdly enough, me being the only Black person on set, I felt like all eyes were still looking at me for some reason, as I needed to speak up about the situation, or I needed to insert myself in this conversation. And it was very weird. And even to this day, that was actually one of my least favorite shoots because of that, because I was the only Black person on there, because it was so weird and awkward how people, like, you know, treated me. I felt like, even if people were trying to be nice, you know, the white folks who tried to understand, try to, you know, be encouraging or whatever, it was still a little weird, just in terms of how the attention just got turned to me sometimes. It was strange. But I definitely believe for Black women that has like a stronger effect, because it's like, obviously as a Black man and just men, like they're kind of like, I guess, put in this position to where they expect you to be, how do you say it, more, I guess, solid infrastructure as far as like how you approach business or whatever. But to be a Black woman to do that, I feel like it's even 10 times more valuable. Truthfully, that's truly how I feel, because I feel like when you have that power, like you said, and you know how to use it, people are going to remember that, and people are going to respect that shit, because it's something that people won't forget. You know what I'm saying? And I hope to be on a set. I will be on a set with you to where I get to experience that from yourself.
So I like to make people feel good. I remember during my first commercial, I hired a makeup artist that I had worked with before previously. And she made a comment about how it was the most comfortable, like, in like enjoyable experience one of the most that she's had.
Yeah.
And that made me feel good. I want to, like you said earlier, I wanted to piggyback off of that. I want to make people feel good and just comfortable. Like, production is supposed to be fun. Like, it's work. It's supposed to be a little bit enjoyable. And even if it is work, even if it's hard and it's kind of stressful, I want to make sure that the crew and everybody is good, you know? So
exactly.
Enjoy.
And you're well on your way to just consistently giving those experiences to people. And I'm proud of you for all of the amazing shit that you've been doing and all the amazing stuff that you've done. One of the things I wanted to say too is, sometimes when I look at like your Instagram and stuff too, and I look at like the captions, there's a lot of meaningful stuff in there that I feel like is super important for young Black girls and just people in general. Like, there's a few. I'm looking at your Instagram now, but like there's this one says, word of the day: release myself from the shackles of productivity, release myself from situations out of my control, release myself from self-imposed limitations, releasing myself from the idea of perfection, releasing myself from harmful coping mechanisms, releasing expectations. That was earlier this year. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And when I see the captions, when I see certain things, one thing I noticed about you specifically is that you give it such a very like a very specific way that you like go off and talking about, just, I guess, almost like journaling in a sense on these captions. I feel like.
For sure. And I grapple with that sometimes about how personal I want to be online, but I want to be real. You know what I'm saying? I want to share whatever my thoughts are. I don't share many things unless I feel like speaking. And so when I do post, it's because I'm either happy about something, excited to share it, proud of it, or it's like I'm struggling with this and I'm coming to terms with something and I'm feeling these emotions. And that was for me. Like I was trying to change. I was trying to grow. I was trying to do all of those things. And I was like, just, I don't know, put it out there.
It's great. Even another one, which this one's super short. You just say on the right track is what the caption says. But all the different photos, it's just like you have an aesthetic that I really love. It's just very, it feels comforting. Dang. You know what I mean? It feels comforting. And I feel like
on the right track. It was a pun. And I didn't like put it in there, but the project that I was working on that I kind of took a picture of, but didn't reveal was for this music competition with Pepsi that launched today. And so I haven't made a post about it yet, but that was the first project that I worked on at this new job. And I was just, I felt like I was on the right track. I was doing something.
That's
good.
Great. See, I love that. I love that. And it's just basically like you're really manifesting these things for yourself, and it's great. One last question before we get to your the advice and message that I'm going to have you give out to people on here. Is a little bit of social media though, because I always like to ask my creatives and entrepreneurs how they go about, marketing themselves or their business or their brands on social media, because I feel like a lot of people are very afraid to market themselves. For me, myself, right? When I moved to California, well, even before I moved to California, I was very open about my life personally. Like, obviously I made an album, No Sweat Pimp. That album is the most personal thing that I've ever created for myself, or just for people. It's not for people, but for myself. That's the most personal thing I've ever put out there, because I really speak about my life in ways that people never kind of knew about or expected, and when I moved to California, I was meeting all these new people, all these different celebrities. I got certain people who follow me and certain conversations I've had with celebrities or whoever, people who could put me in certain positions that I'm like, all right, maybe I should kind of not shelter myself, but maybe shelter the parts that might be more vulnerable than how I had them open to before. So
why is that though?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's just, I guess sometimes I still have those insecurities of like, damn, will these people still like me if I was like, if I had certain conversations with them, or if I, whatever. Like sometimes that comes into my mind. But honestly, I think after launching this podcast and just having different conversations with other creatives and just realizing that I'm not looking for anyone's validation ever. I'm not looking for anyone's validation. I need to be the one to validate myself. And so that's why I'm just like, whatever, I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to create the things that I create, and I'm going to talk about the things that I talk about. And if you don't like them, you don't like them. If you love them, great, cool. But for yourself though, on social media, I mean, do you have a specific, like, how do you choose to market yourself? Do you like you don't ever, you say you don't like to put too much of yourself personally out there, but I mean, I guess, does it shift from like personal to work sometimes a little bit?
Absolutely. So my relationship with social media is so funny. Early on in my social media like career, I was working in radio. And to work in radio, you have to be a social media personality, honey. So I was on there like every day. I was posting a lot. I was posting funny stuff. I was posting, like kind of content engaging things like the YouTube me, right? And that was fun. It became a lot to keep up with. I was like, is this authentic? Is this me? Is this what I want to do? Or am I just doing it because that's what I think will get me followers and blow me up and get people to notice me? And so then I entered college, and I'm not really on social media as much. Like I'll post cute pictures, I'm saying like selfies and stuff like that. And then just the creative in me, the aesthetic me is like, girl, like spice it up. This is like, you know what I'm saying? I still want to have a brand. I'm very much about people having a brand, a presence, an identity publicly. And so that's when I started kind of posting more about my work. And then it feels funny now to post about personal stuff, kind of similarly to you. It's not like, will people like me? It's just like, am I sharing too much? I don't want y'all to be in my business. You know what I mean? Or I don't want people to assume because people do a lot of assumptions. I don't want you to assume because I post this one day that this is how I feel like 24/7 period. Because my opinions change all the time. My views, my this, my that. Like I am a changing, growing human being. Like, so please don't like shackle me to what I post on social media. And so there was that. And now I feel like I'm the most comfortable as I've ever been with social media, because I do feel sometimes though, like, am I only posting my highlight reel? And that doesn't feel as authentic. Like I post a lot when I feel good, when I'm doing good.
I've always heard people like say that, as far as like, social media is fake because people only talk about the good things. Well, yeah, because sometimes I've never understood why people like say that, because it's like, do they want us to post the shitty times about our lives too?
I don't want to be crying on social media.
Yeah, do they want to see that? I've never understood that.
Yeah,
I've never understood it.
I'm in a good place with it now. I do check out, like I have hella inspirations for people who I feel like their social media is how I want to project it, because I've had a change of heart of what professional is. Because in college I was also told to keep it professional for work. And so I've had a change of heart of what professional is, and I'm like, professionals are human beings. I can be damn good at my job, but also turn up on Saturday, and y'all gonna see the turn up. Okay,
right.
I can get lit, like, and that's fine. I can be in the meeting on Monday morning leading, something. So
exactly,
I love creatives like Danye Taylor is one of my favorite. She's a marketing maven. I often look at like the women who I want to be similarly to. So I check out Ray's Instagram all the time, even though she be deleting stuff now. So I'm like, dang, or I like, okay, but who was you before? You know what I'm saying? Before you like Avery DuVernay all the time, and people like that. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. Yeah. Now social media is it's a tricky thing to navigate sometimes, you know what I mean? But I think just like anything else in this industry, really, it feels like trial and error when it comes to social media. It's just
one thing I love about my social media though is I think that I curated a beautiful world for myself on there. I don't come across a lot of like I'm following people that I'm inspired by or that I love and that love me. I don't come across a lot of like hateful things. It's always uplifting. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. Like I understand that because this world is crazy. I see that, you see that, we know that. You know what I'm saying? And I want the people who are around me personally, but also who are in my social atmosphere to have a similar mindset, at least in terms of like, okay, I'm out here figuring it out. I'm trying with my grind, with my hustle, or, something like that.
Right. No, 1000%. I mean, yeah, I think, like I said, now that I'm kind of just starting to get more comfortable in my position here in the Bay, I'm like, I'm gonna post whatever the fuck I want. You know what I mean? Even if it's something super negative, not negative, but like a negative time in my life, and I have posted things like that in the past, but I just think all those things are just growing pains, or not growing pains, but growth.
You show like all sides of you, and that's something that I kind of want to do. Like I'm still on the like I'm going to keep a part of myself to myself because I think that's important. But I want to show people that there is the duality of Bri. Bri is not just the square. You know what I'm saying? Like work, horse. Like
because it's just important. I just feel like I said, as a creative, that's the kind of like in a way, right? Like how, like, for instance, how a lot of these rappers do it. Like I said, I love one of my favorite artists of all time, no matter how people may think about him, because he is fucking crazy. Kanye West, right? Okay. Kanye has done a lot of that. Like I would say some of that is kind of inspired by how he has done it, or how like a J. Cole or Kendrick or Drake has done it. Like sometimes I think about how they go about talking about their lives and how that stuff kind of gets out there. It's like, okay, I don't want my life to be all the way out there. Like there's certain things I'm going to leave to myself. I mean, I think definitely for sure when it comes to like relationships, I feel like I'm not going to leave that to myself, because at the same time, I want to be happy. I want to show off whoever my girl is or whatever. But at the same time, I think some of that stuff should be kept personally, but still at the same time, I just think it's important for people to know who I am, because when they see my art, and as I push SW Films a certain way, as I push this podcast a certain way, like, I want people to know who the hell is behind all that, so I think that's super important. But to end this off, Bri, I want you to give some advice and a message to people who are possibly wanting to be just like you. For those young Black girls who are, or just whoever who is watching you right now and wanting to get into the filmmaking world, or just into a creative space like yourself, to be in those certain positions to where you're leading people, you're a leader for a lot of folks in Detroit or just wherever. Like, what would your message be for people to stay on track during those times?
So a few things that I have to remind myself of all the time that I would tell other people is to, one, listen to like your voice, your gut, your intuition. Like, no matter what great advice you may get, your life is like, everyone's life is independent. It's unique. It's, you know what I'm saying? So follow your journey. Don't craft your journey specifically after somebody else's, right? Mm-hmm. And then two, another epiphany I just had, you can do literally anything. All we have to do is like practice, try, like work. It's like kind of simple. It's hard. Okay, it's hard, but it's really, really, really simple. Yeah. Apply yourself to whatever it is that you are aiming to do. And I mean, that includes like research, talking to people, I'm asking questions, I'm like doing the deepest of dives of my Googles, you know what I'm saying? I'm practicing, I'm being proactive. Like, I'll do something on my own before, if I don't have the opportunity in front of me, I'm gonna create it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's just what I'll say is you can do it. You can literally do it if you have the determination and the will
to do it. Absolutely. That is beautiful. Bri, I just want to say thank you so much for being on this podcast. It's first of all, it's just amazing to talk to you. We definitely got to keep in touch more. No, because like I said, I am inspired by you. I love all the stuff that you're doing. I love to see just your growth and your career out there in Detroit. I love the love that you have for Detroit. That just kind of helps me with my love for my hometown and everything that I'm trying to do. So I just want to say thank you for doing amazing stuff and just being you. Okay. You. First of all, let the people know where to watch your excellence, where to find you on social media as well. Let people know where they can check out Bri from the D.
I was just about to say, you know what I'm saying? You introduced me as Abriana, but I'm also formerly known as Bri from the D, and that's literally on everything. So I'll be posting on there, and I'm super nice. So talk to me.
I'm super nice. There you go. Absolutely. Super nice. Thank you to everybody who's listening and watching the podcast. Of course, go subscribe to SW Films. Go subscribe to the Excellent Podcast. Go follow me on Instagram. All of that stuff is linked on the screen for people who are watching, but you guys know where to find me at. And I will see you guys on the very next episode. Thank you, Bri.